Have you ever had someone that you loved that was taking prescription medication and you were wondering if they were addicted to it? Or have you ever had someone that you heard was taking some type of opiate and they were acting strange and you didn't know if they were just experimenting or they were addicted to the drug? Well, today we're going to answer the question, what is opiate addiction? And help you answer any questions that you might have about what is opiate addiction and how it is different than other types of addiction. You know, there's behavioral addictions like gambling or sex addiction, and then there's substance addictions like cocaine, alcohol, crystal meth, opiates, heroin. And heroin, opiates are a different animal, and we're going to look at how it's different than the other types of addictions. So stay with us. Not only we're going to do that, at the end I'm going to ask you a series of questions that will help you identify if perhaps you're struggling with an opiate addiction or someone that you care about is, and give you greater clarity about that. So let's jump right in. What is opiate addiction? Opiate addiction is a physical and psychological reliance on opioids. It's a substance found in certain prescription pain medications, such as Oxycontin, Percocet, Lortab, and also found in illegal drugs like heroin. One of the questions we're often asked is, what do opiates do in the brain? Well, opiates impact what we call neurotransmitters. And very simply, they do two things. It increases pleasure or euphoria, and it decreases pain. If you're having pain signals from your body, it could be a hurt back, it could be a pulled muscle, it could be pain for some other reason in the body. If you take an opiate, it's going to release a sense of euphoria and at the same time decrease the pain signal so that you won't feel the pain. Obviously, we've been using opiates for centuries to help people deal with traumatic injury, say on the battlefield. They're using morphine. And so that's what opiates do, which is the positive part of opiates. But the negative part is this. If you're taking opiates on a daily basis for 2 to 3 weeks, there's a high probability that you're going to become addicted to the opiates. What do you mean, Dean? You're saying that if I have a back injury and the doctor gives me Lortab and I'm taking that every day to deal with pain and I take it more than 2 to 3 weeks, I'll start getting addicted to it? Yes, it's exactly what I'm saying. Whether it's for an injury, whether it's for casual use, once you take it more than a 2 to 3 week period, you'll start having and developing dependency upon the medication. You become physically addicted. So you might ask, what are the unique characteristics of opiate addiction as compared to other addictions? One of the things that opiates does is that it slows down the respiratory system. So your regular breathing system, when you take opiates, not only does it decrease pain, increase euphoria, but it also begins to slow down your respiratory system. An overdose is when you take such a high level of opiates that it slows down your respiratory system so much that you're no longer getting oxygen and breathing and you die because your respiratory system fails. The second unique characteristic of opiates is that it's not only psychologically addictive, it's also physically addictive. See, some medications or some addictions or substances are not physically addictive. You can take cocaine on a regular basis and stop using, and you're not going to be physically addicted to cocaine. Your body's not going to crave it. But opiates are a different animal. If you take opiates and you stop using, not only will you have psychological cravings, you also have a very, very strong physical craving for more, which makes it a lot more challenging to stop using. Number 3, once addicted to opiates, you need to use it on a daily basis or you'll go into withdrawal. And we'll talk about what withdrawal is like. So once I take it 2 to 3 weeks on a regular basis, high amounts, I get addicted, then I need to take it every day or I'll go into withdrawal symptoms. Number 4, opiates are what we call downers. There's some drugs that are uppers, crystal meth, cocaine, create energy, create high levels of going, where opiates are the opposite. They're more downers, they're more depressants. They help slow down the system, makes you a lot more mellow. And another unique characteristic of opiates is that they're actually connected. If someone reaches the stage where they're committing crimes to support their habit, it's usually connected more to non-violent crimes. It's interesting, when a city has an epidemic of opiates coming through the city, the violent crimes go down, but some of the non-violent crimes often increase, like the pickpocketing and stealing and so forth. When you have a drug like cocaine, crack come through a city, it's usually connected a lot more to more paranoia, violent crime, and violent crime increases. So what are signs and symptoms of opiate addiction? Well, in terms of mood, one of the signs and symptoms is mood swings. One second, I'm really down. The next second, I'm really excited and euphoric. It almost looks like I'm having a manic and depressive episode in one day. I'm just manic and then down. Depression, because it's a downer, it's often connected to creating depression, social withdrawal, not wanting to interact with loved ones, losing interest in hobbies and things that they're normally interested in. So it causes depression. Another sign and symptom is anxiety and irritability. Anxious, get irritated really easy. Had a couple recently that her husband was taking opiates and she didn't know. And the characteristic that she said was, in the last couple months, he just gets so irritated so easily. One of the signs and symptoms of opiate addiction. Another mood sign is euphoria, and the euphoria usually lasts for a few hours. Struggling, having a hard time getting out of bed, no motivation, and the next minute, excited, ready to go, euphoric, happy. It usually lasts for 3 or 4 hours and then back down. In terms of behavior, some of the signs and symptoms of opiate addiction is erratic sleep patterns. Oftentimes there's a switching of the sleeping during the day, staying up all night, sometimes on the go, rolling and moving, and then other times long periods of sleep. So it's characterized by erratic sleep patterns. Oftentimes there's financial problems connected. If you're wondering if a loved one is struggling with opiate addiction, the question is, are they having financial problems? Is money missing? Do they seem to be scheming, constantly asking to borrow money? Another characteristic is frequent flu-like symptoms. We'll get into it a little later, but one of the characteristics of withdrawal is feeling strong flu-like symptoms. So the person can go in withdrawal using heroin, using prescription meds, they run out, and all of a sudden they're curled up in bed, sweating. It looks like they have the flu. Another behavioral characteristic of opiate addiction is a lack of hygiene, not combing their hair, disheveled, not taking care of themselves, not wearing nice clothing, seem to be neglecting the shaving, just the general hygiene. Oftentimes we'll have increased weight loss, avoidance of you, avoidance of loved ones, avoidance of family and friends. Hallmark characteristics of opiate addiction. As we talk about the behavioral signs and symptoms of opiate addiction, it reminds me of the book that my wife and I wrote together called A Roadmap to the Soul. And it's really very insightful in helping you understand the inner workings of someone that's struggling with an addiction. So if you're interested in diving deep into understanding the different parts and the different thought processes of someone struggling with an addiction, consider getting A Roadmap to the Soul. I'll have a link conveniently in the description, and I think you'll find it very beneficial. So at the beginning, I said we're going to ask you some questions about identifying someone, or perhaps yourself, that might be struggling with an opiate addiction. So I want you to think about these questions, and if you answer yes to a bunch of them, then there's a possibility that your friend or yourself is struggling with an opiate addiction. Let's go through the questions. Number one, is the person struggling financially or consistently borrowing money? Number two, are they irritable with periods of euphoria that last 3-4 hours? Number three, are they lethargic and do they nod off at odd times during the day? In the middle of a conversation, nodding off. Watching a TV program right after dinner, nodding off. Are they hiding, isolating, or acting secretively? Do their eyes appear dilated or pinpoint in their pupils? Another question, do they seem to get flu-like symptoms fairly often? Cold sweats, fever, curled up, complaining of body aches. Number 7, does their behavior seem unpredictable and increasingly irresponsible? If you said yes to a number of these questions, you might be dealing with someone that's struggling with an opiate addiction. So what do I do? Well, the next step is to talk about how to treat opiate addiction. I'm going to walk you through the process of what the treatment of opiate addiction looks like. And so if you're interested in understanding that process of recovery, I want you to click on the video on the screen now, and I'll see you in the next video.